sacrifice, because if I'm able to step away from the systems and societal structures that have told me I'm a good mother and I'm a good woman for staying within the lines of those, what does that mean for their sacrifice? So what is freedom? I pulled the horse card today in my tarot, and it's all about freedom. The shadow side of freedom is recklessness. And it made me think a lot, because I left a religion where I was raised from infancy with a set of rules. Throat chakra moment. This is going to be vulnerable. I had a set of rules in which I was supposed to live by, which defined me as a woman and kept me safe. So I appreciate that religion. But about 33 years into that religion, I started to realize that I heard a call within me that I was stifling parts of myself, that I was not able to fully be free. And the religion itself spoke to this. It told me that that was the devil, that that was Satan talking to me, enticing me to want to be free, and that if I just stayed in this narrow scope of life with these narrow rules and narrow definitions, I would be safe from the scary world outside. But it was something calling to me from within myself, now I realize, and it was my future self also visiting me, but telling me that I needed to escape from the confines of that religion. I tried to do it. I stepped out for a minute, and it was so unsafe, the thought of losing my entire community, that I stepped right back in really quick, and I conformed again. But as it always does, that inner call would not go away, and 10 years later, I had it again. And I remember riding my e-bike down to the beach, and I was living in a marriage with somebody who I had been with for 2 decades that I met in the confines of this religion. And we had a beautiful family together, and we had created a beautiful life. And I lived right by the beach, and I had everything I could ever want. I had everything that the religion told me I would have if I stayed within those narrow confines. I had the beautiful family. I had a husband. I lived by the beach. I had a beautiful life. However, something was calling to me within that I needed to burn it down. And I'm sure my kids, I block them, so don't worry, my adult kids are not watching this. But I'm sure my kids would look at that and go, well, thanks a lot. You burned our lives down too. And as a mother, I grapple with that. I'm being fully honest and transparent right now. As a mother, I grapple with that. Should I have burned down my life and affected their life in order to be true to that inner voice? But for 10 years prior to that moment on the beach on my e-bike, I had tried to ignore and quell and stuff down that inner voice. And it didn't work. That inner voice eventually rebelled, and I got a cheetah tattoo because I read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which if you're a woman and you have not read that book, you need to read that book. If you relate with what I'm talking about and you're hearing that inner voice and it is becoming impossible to quell, impossible to bury, impossible to ignore. I tried to do it for 10 years, and I was the best mom in the textbook of moms. But yet my inner voice was still telling me that I needed to not only walk away from that religion that I had tried to conform myself for the last 10 years to be in and to be the best at, but also I needed to leave my marriage. I knew it in that moment on the beach. And it's actually so tragic. It's one of the tragedies of my life. And on my deathbed, I will continuously regret that it had to happen. It's one of those things where it's like, you know it has to happen, but you regret it. You will always carry the regret, and you can do all of the healing and psychoanalyzing, but it's something that you will always regret. And yet, you know that you needed to do it. And that's exactly what ending my marriage of 22 years represented to me. I knew in my heart of hearts that I had to let him go because something was telling me deep within that the marriage was over, that I had graduated from the marriage, that it had served its purpose, and from it we had 4 beautiful children, and from it we had accomplished a lot, but that we had graduated and it was now time to conclude the marriage. And if you're a woman in 2025, you can relate with what I'm talking about, because women are getting divorced in droves, and it is such a delicate, sacred experience to choose yourself, especially when you know that the children are relying on you being together. The children are relying on you keeping it together and quelling the inner voice, burying the inner voice, ignoring the inner voice. As Glennon Doyle says it in her book Untamed, sacrificing yourself on the pyre of motherhood and a nuclear family, and denying yourself and denying your inner voice. And it is such a quandary and it's such a paradox, because you as a mother feel the need to lay yourself on the pyre of self-sacrifice so that your kids have that dream life and they have that nuclear family. And to step off of that pyre and say, no, I choose myself, it is such an act of bravery and rebellion. And society hates women that do this. I'm going to have women in the comments all over the place who are doing this sacrifice and look at women like me as a mockery of the sacrifice that they have submitted themselves to be. I am a mockery of that sacrifice, because if I'm able to step away from the systems and societal structures that have told me I'm a good mother and I'm a good woman for staying within the lines of those, what does that mean for their sacrifice? Somehow in their minds, it devalues it. So women will be horrible to other women, and I'm sure I will have women in the comments that are roasting me for this idea. But there are a lot of other women out there that are grappling with it, that can't live with themselves another minute until they listen to that deep inner voice telling them that something is out there that is for them. Something is out there that they need to grasp onto. There's another life. There's another dimension of life that they need to enter through a portal of burning down the systems and the life that they currently have. And they know it. They can feel it. And they've tried for years, decades in my case, to ignore it. And they've reached a threshold where they can no longer ignore it anymore. And if that's you, I stand with you, sister. And I stand here on the other side to tell you this. That call to freedom, that freedom call, that is your future self, that is your higher self calling to you. And it is calling to you because it knows that there's something different for you. And I'm not going to say greater, okay? Because that's devaluing the beauty and the truth that you have created in your life right now and where you sit. Where you sit right now, you probably look at your family and you look at the family you've created and you look at the beautiful children, those beautiful, beautiful children, and you say to yourself, I have done so much for them and I have sacrificed so much for them. And look at them, they're so beautiful. And it's because of my sacrifice that they are so beautiful. But I want to change this for you right now. It is because of you being authentically you that they are who they are. And the more that you deny who you authentically are, what all the parts of you are telling you, especially the higher parts of you, especially the future parts of you, the future versions of you, that inner voice, when you listen to that inner voice, above all else, even if it means the burning down of every system and structure that you currently find yourself in that you're comfortable with, they will see that. And it may not be immediate. It is a high price to pay to choose your freedom. It is a high price to pay to acknowledge and honor your inner voice and your higher self. And society doesn't like it. And they are going to tear you down along the way. Your kids are going to have a problem with it because it's shaking up the foundation of what they know to be true. But I also know that teaching them by your behavior, and that's all they ever learn from, it's not your words, it's what you do and how you act. Teaching them to quiet their voice and to be subservient to all of the messaging around them and all of the societal structures that are trying to reinforce women continuing and staying on that pyre of self-sacrifice. Those voices are loud, they're painful. They're painful for the kids to hear. They're going to look at you different for a little while. But at the end of the day, you showed them that listening to your inner voice, following your inner guidance and your inner conscience is why you're here on this earth. It is the highest, most sacred calling. And although you may have to pay the highest price to heed it, it is quite literally the hero's journey. And it is what we're here to learn how to do. And by you making those choices, you are demonstrating and showing them the greatest gift and life lesson that they could ever attain. And that is where the real freedom lies. Freedom to be true to you.